Hello and welcome to USC Trojans on Fan Nation podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Erlbaum, with my co-host, Jacob Hare. And today we're getting you set for the Cotton Bowl. The USC Trojans are set to take on the University of Tulane, and which should be a fun one. Should be a high-scoring game on Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, 10 o'clock Pacific time, an early start for those of you on the West Coast. But nonetheless, definitely one that you want to wake up for. A good one. A good one. Obviously, not the game that USC wants to be playing in, but still getting to the Cotton Bowl. No shame in that. And my friend, what are you most looking forward to this one?
Well, I think the biggest thing that you're going to have to look for in this game is the obvious matchup between USC's passing attack against Tulane's passing defense. Look, this might be the best pass defense that USC is going to face the entire season. I mean, Tulane is a top team in the country in terms of coverage and arguably the best pass defense in the AAC with a respected conference. So, however, I see Tulane struggling with the run D, which they have the entire season. But on the flip side, so is USC. So I think this is going to be a fun game. USC's missing a ton of studs. I mean, Jordan Addison's out, Brett Nealon's out, and Andrew Voorhees is out. But I do respect Jordan Addison. He was trying to play. Obviously, we knew when he committed to USC over this past spring to come and play, he was only going to be here for 1 year. So the Bladenkoff winner of 2021 is going to have to sit this one out to protect himself from injury. But you have to look at the two linemen that are missing. These are arguably your best two offensive players besides Caleb and Addison. So how is Caleb and Coach Riley going to adjust not having Nealon and Voorhees? I mean, we saw in the Utah game, without those two players, it just became a total mess. Caleb was uncomfortable. He was also hurt. So the recovery time between last game and now should be better for him, and he should have more mobility to his game. But it's just going to be a tricky matchup for USC. It's just I feel like this is going to be an awkward game. USC doesn't have their most talent that they could put out on the field, and Tulane, this is the biggest game in Tulane program history, maybe ever. So this is just going to be two teams with totally different mindsets. But at the end of the day, USC is more talent, and I believe that their passing attack is going to beat the pass defense for Tulane.
Yeah, I think you talked about the Tulane pass defense, but I want to talk about this Tulane passing attack with quarterback Michael Pratt. You talked about it being dual threat. That's something that's given the Trojans problems all season. In the conference championship for Tulane, Pratt threw for 394 yards and 4 touchdowns, and also rushed for 48. So he really shows that he can burn you in the air, but also do some damage on the ground, which I think should present some problems for the Trojans. And honestly, I'm expecting a shootout in this one. I think both teams are going to throw the ball a ton, and I think when it comes down to it, it's gonna be whatever team makes that crucial turnover down the stretch. I think we're going to see a lot of points, a lot of back and forth, touchdowns, field goals. I think it's going to come down to what team makes the crucial turnover at the end. And I think when you look at it, Caleb Williams is not someone that does that. And I think USC is going to get a big turnover late and win the game.
I mean, I definitely agree there that Caleb Williams is not a guy who has to do that, but he has to have his playmakers go out and make big plays for him the entire game. Because you're missing Addison and Travis Dye, I think this is the game where Mario Williams can say to Coach Riley, "Hey, Coach, I'm here. I'm going to be your wide receiver one next season, and let's get started in the Cotton Bowl against Tulane." This is a game where he needs to shed off Dorian Singer, the Arizona transfer who's coming over next season, and show that going into camp, he's the clear favorite. There's a reason why he came to USC. He knew he would be under Addison for 1 year, and he would take the role as wide receiver two this year. But Mario Williams is really, really going to have to step up. I mean, I hate to say it, but this season's been kind of a disappointment for him with a guy who entered the season with such high expectations, already had the chemistry from playing at Oklahoma last year with Caleb, understood Coach Riley's offense. Obviously, he was at Oklahoma too, but I also have to see him really show that he's a physical guy. He can make the big play, and he's going to be open for Caleb to throw to. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to in this game. And you talk about Tulane, you talk about a playmaker, Michael Pratt. He's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the nation this year. He's 10 total rushing touchdowns. But I'm worried about running back Tajay Spears. I mean, this is a guy who's rushed for over 1,300 yards for Tulane. He's a guy who's going to get into the end zone. So USC has to find a way to make sure that they can stuff him and not let him make the big plays that he's accustomed to and that he's been making for Tulane the entire year. So that's going to be the X factor too, slowing down Tulane's run game.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up Tajay Spears. He's been incredible. And really, how he started the season in his first 3 games, he had just 26 carries combined through 3 games. And now he's getting 20 plus carries a game. In his last game against UCF in the conference championship, 22 carries for 199 yards and a touchdown. I mean, this guy is rushed for over 100 yards, and I'm counting it here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight games with over 100 yards on the ground. I mean, he's been dominating since he really got the ball after that slow start to the season. This is definitely someone that USC has to be on the lookout for every single play because he is a star.
I mean, you definitely see that with Tajay Spears. He's a star, but I also think Michael Pratt's been a star the entire year. And I just want to break down this quote from USC defensive tackle Tyrone Taleni. He said that we had a few of those mobile quarterbacks we played in games throughout the year, but we just needed to be better up front, making plays, executing our calls. And once we do that, it will be easy to contain him and not make any explosive plays in the backfield. He's talking about Michael Pratt, and obviously that applies to Tajay Spears. But USC has to be aware that these are two guys that can really just get the open burst and really just go to the end zone. So you saw there's a reason they struggled against Cam Rising. They struggled against Jaden Delorier for Arizona. They struggled early on in the year against Chance Nolan. So this is just where they have to make the solidifying statement to the country that next year mobile quarterbacks aren't going to have their way against USC. And you talk about Tajay Spears. I mean, he's had a ridiculous amount of games consecutive over 100 yards. I think the USC is going to break that streak this weekend. I'm feeling confident because I feel that Tulane's going to have to play from behind for most of the game, and they're going to be forced to throw. So that's really what I want to get for USC, to get ahead early and make sure that Tulane can't utilize the running game from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Tulane's passing game, they don't really have a clear number one receiver. They have two guys, Deuce Watts and Shea
Exactly.
Wyatt, who both Watts had just over 500 yards and Wyatt had over 600 yards. Both guys had really good games against UCF in the AAC championship, though. Watts went for 3 for 134 and a touchdown, and Wyatt had 5 for 110 and 2 touchdowns. So both guys can do damage. Definitely have to be on the lookout for both of them, but they don't have that real number one passing threat, that real top receiver that can burn you on any single play like USC has with Jordan Addison and even Mario Williams, what they hope he can be. And I think that's something that could bode well for USC. It allows them to sort of, they don't have to worry about it as much. They're going to focus a lot on running back Tajay Spears. And I think when you look at this two-in receiving attack, it's certainly not as good as USC's. Obviously, Addison is out, but still definitely not as good, and definitely allows the defense not to worry about a single player every single play when they know that there's two guys that are both neither of them are truly amazing players, but they both can do damage.
Absolutely. And I just want to move on to a quote from Coach Riley that really stood out to me from just all this media coverage on the Cotton Bowl. And then he said that no other sport do you play games and all of a sudden have a month where you don't play a game. Luckily, the staff has been through this before. For us, it is asking the team to do what they've done for the last 12 months, which is trust us and let us lay out a direction. Let us lay out a path that will help them be successful. Then these guys have to believe it and follow it. When we do that, we've been pretty successful. You have to have the ability to look down the line, because these bowl games, especially like these ones, you remember these games forever. We would expect nothing less than to put our very best foot forward. Look, I agree with Coach Riley, but I'm going to start a controversial debate because bowl season's fun, but debating is also fun in my opinion. I don't like bowl games. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're having these kids play another game a month later after the season for what? Nothing? I mean, you get a hat at the end of the game that says Cotton Bowl Championship. It's not like you're playing for a ring. I just think that bowl games in the past couple of years, especially with star players, you see it this year sitting out, have just become a complete joke. I mean, you look at the list of talent that was playing there in the regular season versus in the bowl game, and it's dramatic. I mean, look at USC. They're missing their three best offensive players besides Caleb Williams in this game. So I'm anti bowl games, and I just want to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I disagree with you. I think obviously there's recently with the rise of players sitting out waiting for the NFL draft, but I think at the end of the day, it gives these kids, it's more for the fun for these kids. Obviously, those that are playing in the college ball playoff, that's not about fun. Those are business trips. These trips, yeah, they want to win the game. They want to play good football, but it's also about having fun. It gives the kids stuff to do. It gives the teams really just sort of like a little thing to look forward to for the end of the season. Yes, the game matters the most. At the end of the day, you still want to win, but also you get to go to these places, you get to do stuff, you get to have fun, you get to do different activities. You're with your teammates. You're not playing in a game that really matters so much per se. But I think at the end of the day, it's about giving the kids sort of an experience at the end of the year that they're going to remember, and something that allows these kids to have one sort of last hurrah for the season, and not just the teams that are playing in the playoff. It gives everyone that qualifies winning the 6 game threshold. I think something to to play for and something to sort of just have to cap their season off. And also, it's not like these bowl games are for everyone. You have to win a certain amount of games, like I mentioned. You have to win at least 6 games, and I think what it comes down to is it's just sort of one last experience for the kids, one last hurrah, and it's also not just something that everyone gets to do. It's sort of it's a reward for having a solid season.
I mean, look, I agree with you that it is a reward for having a solid season, but 6 wins going 500, if you go like 6-6, 6-7 somehow, and you're making a bowl game, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, the NCAA should be about protecting these players and not forcing them to play an extra meaningless game that has no regular season or championship implications and potentially risking their career. I mean, we saw it last year with Ole Miss. Quarterback Matt Corral opted to stay in and play in Ole Miss's bowl game, and he got hurt, and it hurt his NFL draft stock. Yes, he's still lucky that he's one of the most talented players in the world, and he got drafted, but there was an unnecessary risk for him to play in that game. I'm not saying that all players should sit out bowl games, but I'm saying don't take the necessary risks. Don't play in a game if you have your NFL future on the line. Play in the game if you really are okay with getting hurt, but no one should be okay with that. So that's why I don't understand the implications of these bowl games. But it's a long debate and there's a lot to go forward. But let's just focus on the Trojans right now because we do have a big game coming up in a few days.
Yeah, I disagree with you on some stuff. I agree with you on some stuff, but moving on, can we get some predictions for Monday in this bowl game? Sort of not just score, but what do you think is going to happen in the game?
Sure. I mean, one guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing in this game is Taj Washington. I mean, he got red hot at the end of the season. I'm expecting Taj Washington to continue that hot streak and have another impressive game against Tulane. I'm going to give a bold prediction: 8 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown for Taj Washington. And let's get a little unique. I'm going to say Austin Jones, 150 plus scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns. And you know what? I'm going to say Caleb Williams catches a touchdown in this game. Like,
Ooh.
why not? Let's get fun. Lincoln Riley, it's a bowl game. So bowl games are supposed to be fun. Even though I'm not for them, let's have a fun playing this game. I'm going to say Caleb Williams has a receiving touchdown or a non-position player, an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, get into the end zone in this game.
I'm going to say USC is going to win the game. I think it's going to be 48-38, a shootout. I think I said earlier, I think USC gets a turnover late that ends up putting them over the edge. But I think Tulane running back Tajay Spears is going to rush for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game. And I think quarterback Michael Pratt's going to throw for 300 plus yards. But I think it's not going to be enough. I think Caleb Williams is going to pass for 400 yards. I think this is going to be one of those games where they just throw the lights out of the ball. And I think Mario Williams is going to have a big game, possibly a 200-yard receiving game. I'm going to get bold.
Wow.
I'm going to get really bold.
200 yards?
Yeah, I'm going to get really bold.
Wow.
Breakout game for Mario Williams.
Okay, I mean, I'm a little bit of a Mario Williams doubter nowadays after I've seen what he's done this year. I mean, there's been off-field issues, injury issues. I don't even know what's going on. But, hey, if he gets 200 yards, book it in that Mario Williams is going to be a top 5 receiver in the Pac-12 next season. I mean, that's just something that you can solidify right now. But I'm going to give my score prediction before we get off the podcast. I'm going to say 43-28 USC, Caleb Williams MVP. And I'm going to say I like my Taj Washington prediction, but I'm also going to say Brendan Rice has a big game too. I'm a big fan of him, and I think this is another game where he can solidify himself as maybe the 3 or 4 receiver for USC next year, considering they don't bring in too many transfers. But should be a fun one, and we'll be back next week to recap it. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, USC Trojans on Fan Nation Podcast, and make sure to check out every week. We'll be talking in the offseason USC football, a little bit of USC basketball, but it's going to be fun for the rest of the year. And Happy New Year to everyone.
Yep. Enjoy the game January 2nd on Monday, 1 o'clock on ESPN, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific on ESPN. So USC and Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to breaking it down next week. I'm Jacob Erlbaum. That's my co-host, Jacob Hare. Go Trojans, and we'll see you next week.